If you woke up in Pompeii the day before the eruption of Vesuvius, you wouldn't survive even a single day. Not because of the lava. Not because of the ash. But because the city itself was already dying, collapsing under warnings no one understood. In this story, you will walk the last 24 hours of Pompeii as if you were there, the trembling earth beneath your feet, the strange sulphurous taste in the air, the uneasy silence of the birds, and the ominous signs the citizens dismissed as just another tremor. You'll follow ordinary people living their final day, unaware of the disaster about to erase their world. This is not only the story of an eruption, it is the story of how thousands failed to recognize the end, even as it swallowed them. Hello. Welcome to my channel. Before we start, it's a good idea to go to bed and relax. I also want to ask you to subscribe to my channel, like it and write in the comments where you are from and what time it is. Using the link in the description you can support me. Thank you. Sweet dreams. When you first step into Pompeii, the city greets you with noise, color, and heat. The stone streets burn beneath your sandals, carrying the warmth of a relentless southern sun. Merchants shout offers from every doorway, fishermen unload their morning catch, and the scent of fresh bread mingles with the sharper smell of vinegar and wine. To any outsider, Pompeii looks alive, thriving, and loud, but you don't notice what the locals have learned to ignore. A faint tremor runs beneath your feet. It lasts just a moment, barely strong enough to shake the wooden stall of a fruit seller beside you. She doesn't even look up. You stare, waiting for someone, anyone, to acknowledge it. But no one does. A few amphorae rattle on a shelf, a stray dog lifts its head in confusion, yet the city keeps moving as if nothing happened. To you, it feels like a warning. To them, it's merely life at the foot of Vesuvius. Pompeii has lived with earthquakes for generations. People are used to the occasional shudder of the earth, the creak of beams, the soft crumble of dust from old walls. The Great Quake 17 years earlier nearly destroyed the city, and they rebuilt it stone by stone. Now, cracks in walls are passed off as imperfections, and sudden shakes are brushed aside with a shrug. You are the only one staring back toward the towering mountain, a dark, uneven silhouette against the morning sky. You don't realize it yet, but the air already tastes different. A faint metallic tang, sharp at the back of your throat, something unnatural. You cough once, and the man next to you laughs. New to the city, he asks, adjusting a basket of figs on his hip. You'll get used to it. The mountain exhales from time to time. Exhales. A strangely accurate word for what Vesuvius is doing. As you pass through the forum, you notice several people arguing loudly. Marble columns rise around you, but some are cracked near the base. Workers perch on scaffolding, their tunics dusty, repairing damage from yet another tremor the night before. You overhear one complaining, if the gods want to bring the city down, they might as well do it quickly. Another laughs, though the sound lacks humor. Near the temple of Jupiter, pigeons gather in unusual clusters, pacing nervously instead of flying. Their wings twitch, but they stay grounded. A group of children chase them, expecting them to take off, but the birds don't. A bad sign, though no one recognizes it. You make your way toward the baths, drawn by the promise of cool water and shade, when another tremor rolls through the street. This one is stronger, like a wave passing beneath the stones. A few people pause, bracing themselves. A jar falls and shatters. A horse rears, nearly throwing its rider. Still, within seconds, everything returns to normal. You can't shake the feeling that something is building, pressure, tension, a silent breath being held beneath the earth. You glance once more at Vesuvius. The peak seems hazed, blurry, as if a thin veil of smoke clings to the crater. You blink, thinking it's your eyes, but the haze remains. No one else looks. No one else cares. And that is the greatest danger of Pompeii. The people who live here have forgotten how to be afraid. You take one more step, the ground murmurs beneath you, and somewhere behind the mountain's silent walls, pressure deep inside the earth tightens like a fist preparing to strike. You would not survive this day. No one would. As the afternoon heat builds, Pompeii grows louder. Markets fill, fountains overflow, and laughter echoes from taverns where wine is already being poured. But something feels off. Every sound seems sharper, every silence, deeper. Walking down Via dei Sepolcri, you notice a woman standing outside her home, staring at the ground. A thin crack snakes across the stone threshold. She touches it with cautious fingers. Another one, she murmurs before turning away, resigned. Even the earth's warnings have become boring. A donkey brays violently farther down the street, refusing to move despite its owner's curses. The animal's eyes are wide, whites showing, skittish in a way that sends chills up your spine. Animals know. They always know. You inhale, and the strange metallic taste in the air is stronger now. Mixed with it is a faint sulfur scent, like extinguished matches. No baker would produce such a smell, no cook would accept it in their kitchen. But the breeze carries it across the city, thin and unsettling. You approach a fountain where a young boy splashes water onto his arms. Feels warm today, he says to no one in particular. His older sister fills a jug, frowning as she dips her hand into the basin. The water's hotter than usual. She shakes her head, blaming the sun, unaware that the ground itself is heating from below. Another tremor hits. This one is quick but violent, rattling windows and sending dust drifting from the roofs. Shouts rise, but not of panic, only frustration. Not again, someone groans. A merchant grabs his jars before they fall. A group of workers laugh nervously, pretending it's nothing. A man beside you mutters, "The gods are restless." But even he keeps walking. You notice more cracks now, along walls, across pavements, creeping like veins through the city. Fresh, sharp-edged, impossible to ignore once your eyes recognize the pattern. Other visitors might marvel at the architecture. You see a city splitting at its foundations. Approaching the amphitheater, you find it unusually empty. Only a few young men practice with wooden swords, their instructor sweaty and irritated. "Focus," he shouts as another tremor ripples beneath them, knocking one fighter off balance. It's only the ground stretching its legs. But the mountain looms above, silent and watching. You feel it more than you see it, a pressure, a presence, a weight in the sky. Birds avoid the peak entirely, flying in wide arcs around it. A dark streak of cloud hugs the summit, thin but persistent, swirling oddly, as if rising from within the mountain instead of drifting toward it. You blink. Is it smoke? The moment you consider asking someone, a sharp cry erupts from the nearby stables. A horse breaks free of its rope, bolting down the street in blind terror. People scatter, cursing and shouting. Its hooves strike sparks against the stone as it disappears around a corner. The stable master wipes sweat from his brow, muttering, "The animals have lost their minds today." You know better. Nature is screaming at the city. But Pompeii's people have lived too long in the shadow of Vesuvius. They have forgotten what a real threat looks like. They have forgotten the truth. When a sleeping giant stirs, the wise flee. Pompeii laughs. And that is why you cannot survive this day, because you, unlike them, can hear the warning but cannot escape it. The sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows through the narrow streets. The heat doesn't fade, it clings to the ground as if the stones themselves are feverish. You feel sweat gather along your neck, but it isn't the weather that unsettles you now. It's the quiet. Pompeii is never silent. Yet as evening approaches, the familiar chorus of merchants, travelers, and gossiping neighbors grows thin. People still talk, but they lower their voices, glancing at the mountain more often. Even if they don't admit it, they sense something. At a bakery, the owner pulls charred loaves from the oven. He frowns at the dough, muttering that it rose too quickly, as if the yeast reacted strangely. Inside the shop, a crack zigzags across the floor, stopping just before the oven's base. He hasn't noticed it yet. Across the street, a group of citizens argue near the temple steps. We should offer sacrifices, one insists. The gods are angry. Another scoffs. It's just tremors. They happen every year. Their debate grows louder until another small quake interrupts them. Dust drifts from the temple roof, sprinkling their shoulders like gray snow. They step aside, brushing themselves off, irritated, not afraid. A dog trots toward you, tail low, whining. Its ribs heave quickly, and it keeps glancing back toward Vesuvius. When you kneel to comfort it, it pulls away, pacing in anxious circles. Moments later, it darts down an alley, disappearing into the deepening twilight. In the forum, torches burn earlier than usual as the sky dims faster than expected. A faint haze spreads across the horizon, making the sun appear dull, almost copper. You rub your eyes, but the haze remains, a thin veil of particles drifting above the city. No one comments on it. Perhaps they think it's weather. Perhaps they refuse to see. The ground rumbles again, a long, slow roll that seems to move through your bones. A nearby fountain sloshes water over its edges. A marble statue trembles as if waking, then settles again. Several people stumble, cursing. One woman grips a column until the shaking stops, her lips pale but determined. A vendor sighs dramatically. If this continues, my shelves will collapse before the festival even begins. He adjusts his goods, muttering angrily at the ground. As if the earth cares. You glance toward Vesuvius again. The haze has thickened into a faint, swirling plume. The edges glow with the last light of day, giving it an almost golden outline, beautiful, if it weren't so deadly. A few citizens finally notice. Is that smoke? A man asks. Clouds, another insists quickly. Clouds don't rise from the mountain. They stare a moment longer, then head home. Because what else can they do? As night approaches, the city seems to hold its breath. The air grows heavier, thick with the strange sulfur taste. You cough again, harder this time, and your chest feels tight. A headache pulses behind your eyes. Something is building, pressure, heat, energy trapped beneath the earth, desperate to escape. When the next tremor hits, it's powerful enough to send a roof tile crashing to the street beside you. People scream, stumble, then rush to pick up fallen objects. A man laughs shakily. That one was strong, eh? His smile is thin. Pompeii is cracking apart, inch by inch. The mountain is waking. The end is already on its way. And tomorrow, before the sun can rise, the sky will turn black. But tonight is the final calm. Night settles over Pompeii like a heavy blanket, but it brings no relief. The air is warm, too warm, as if the day's heat refuses to leave the stones. Torches flicker along the streets, their flames bending in strange, unpredictable patterns. The breeze, usually so gentle at dusk, carries an odd dryness that scratches your throat. You walk through the quieter districts, and here the unease is unmistakable. A woman stands outside her home, clutching a lamp, watching the ground as though expecting it to move again. Her husband urges her to come inside, insisting she's imagining things. But as she hesitates, the earth gives a short, sharp jolt, and the doorframe creaks ominously. She doesn't scream. She merely sighs, exhausted by fear that feels both familiar and useless. Inside the houses around you, families eat in silence. Conversations start, falter, and die under the weight of unspoken worry. Parents smile too brightly for their children, who stare at the dark mountain beyond the rooftops. Even the laughter from the taverns is subdued, strained, the joyous shouts replaced with forced chuckles and nervous glances. You pass a small shrine where an elderly priest lights incense. The smoke spirals upward, but instead of rising straight, it drifts sideways, tugged by some invisible hand. The priest frowns but says nothing. He has seen many strange things in his lifetime, yet something about tonight unsettles even him. Beyond the shrine, a row of olive trees sways despite the still air. Their leaves tremble as though brushed by an unseen force. A dog barks in the distance, sharp, panicked, relentless. No one goes to calm it. As you near the city walls, you notice several guards gathered together, talking in hushed voices. One points toward Vesuvius, where a faint red glow pulses like a heartbeat behind the peak. Another guard scoffs, insisting it's nothing more than reflected torchlight. But the youngest among them shifts nervously, gripping his spear tighter. "Do mountains glow?" he whispers. No one answers. The ground trembles again, not violently, but long enough to make you steady yourself against a wall. The stones feel warm beneath your palm. Too warm. You pull your hand away quickly, heart pounding. When you reach the main street again, you find a group of citizens gathered around a well. One man claims the water tastes strange. Another says the level has dropped unnaturally. A third insists it's all in their heads. They argue until the earth shakes once more, scattering pebbles across the street. A child bursts into tears. His mother lifts him, holding him close, whispering reassurances she doesn't believe. You look up. The stars have dimmed, hidden behind a veil of thin, drifting ash. The city does not notice. But you do. Pompeii is living its last night. And every sound, every tremor, is a drumbeat of the approaching end. As the night deepens, the behavior of the animals becomes impossible to ignore. Birds, usually quiet but calm after dusk, now flutter restlessly along rooftops, refusing to settle. They hop back and forth, calling out sharp, distressed cries that echo through the narrow streets. In the stables, horses stamp and snort, pacing in circles until their hooves scrape grooves into the dirt. One kicks the wooden stall so hard the beam cracks. The stable master curses under his breath, sweat shining on his forehead. "Never seen them like this," he mutters. "Not even during the last quakes." A group of stray dogs gathers in the forum, whining and pacing. Instead of fighting over scraps as usual, they huddle together, trembling. Their instincts are screaming, flee, run, hide. But there is nowhere to go. As you continue walking, you approach a tavern where the lantern light spills across the street. Inside, men drink heavily, louder and rowdier than usual, but their laughter is hollow. Fear hangs in the air like another smell, thick, metallic, undeniable. A man slams his cup down and declares, "If the gods want to swallow us, let them. I won't run like a coward." His friends cheer, but their eyes are dark with dread. Outside, you overhear two women whispering near a water fountain. The ground hasn't been still all day. It hasn't been still for weeks. My husband says we should leave. And go where? The whole region shakes. Their conversation ends abruptly when a violent tremor strikes. You hear the deep groan of wood as a nearby house shudders, tiles sliding off the roof and smashing on the ground. A column cracks loudly, sending a shower of dust into the street. People scream, running from their homes, clutching children and oil lamps. But after less than 10 seconds, the shaking stops. Silence follows, a heavy, suffocating silence. A man kneels in the street, crossing himself. "Great Neptune, spare us," he whispers. "Not Jupiter. Not Vulcan. Neptune, god of earthquakes." Even the old gods feel confused tonight. As people slowly return indoors, you notice the thin plume rising from Vesuvius has thickened. It stretches upward like a dark finger stabbing into the sky. The color is wrong, not cloud gray, but brownish, heavy, filled with particles that shimmer when they catch the torchlight. A faint rumble rolls across the city. Not from the ground this time. From the mountain. It sounds like something deep within the earth shifting, cracking, preparing. Your chest tightens. The air tastes worse now, bitter, sulfurous, almost burning. You cough hard, doubling over for a moment. A passerby pats your back. Don't worry. Happens to many during tremors. The dust rises. But this is not dust. Inside your lungs, it feels like breathing smoke. You straighten slowly, gazing at the glowing line along the mountain's ridge. It pulses brighter for a heartbeat, then fades again, like the mountain is breathing. And with each breath, the end grows closer. The night is only beginning, and by dawn, Pompeii will face its first real terror. Past midnight, the city becomes a patchwork of restless shadows. Most homes are closed, shutters fastened tightly, but behind every window you sense movement, families unable to sleep, listening for the next tremor. The earth feels unpredictable now, twitching like a creature in pain. You walk along Via dell'Abbondanza, the main artery of Pompeii. The paving stones are cracked in multiple places, some slightly raised where the earth has shifted unevenly. A jug of wine rolls from a table outside a tavern, tipped by a tremor too subtle for your feet to register. It hits the ground and shatters, the scent of grapes filling the warm night air. The city feels suspended, caught between fear and denial. Near the baths, a group of young men sit outside, their torches illuminating anxious faces. They try to joke, but their laughter is brittle. One of them suddenly goes quiet, pointing at the mountain. "Look," he whispers. The others turn. The red glow behind Vesuvius has intensified. It flickers, then steadies, then flickers again, a heartbeat growing stronger. "Is it fire?" one asks. "No," another insists too quickly. "It can't be." But you can see it clearly, the sky itself is beginning to blush with the color of molten rock hidden just beneath the surface. A soft rain of ash begins to fall. At first it's barely noticeable, like the thinnest snow. You wipe your arm and find a smear of gray dust. A woman passing by sees it too, her eyes widening. "What is that?" she whispers. No one answers. Another tremor hits, not violent, but strangely rhythmic, like the tapping of a giant hand on the earth. A vase topples from a windowsill. A group of pigeons erupts into the air, flying low and erratically before disappearing into the night. You move toward the city center, where the Forum stands silent under the drifting ash. The statues look ghostly now, their outlines softened by the dust. At the far end, a man kneels in prayer before the temple of Jupiter, begging for guidance. His voice cracks with desperation. The air grows heavier still. Breathing feels like sucking in warm sand. You taste sulfur with every inhale. The ash thickens, falling faster, covering rooftops, streets, and your own skin. A sudden, deafening boom echoes from the mountain. It shakes the air, not the ground, a sound so vast and deep it feels like the sky itself is splitting open. You stagger, covering your ears. People rush out of their homes in panic, shouting, crying, clutching their families. High above, a brilliant flash illuminates the crater for the first time. The glow is no longer subtle. It bursts outward like the opening of a fiery eye. Someone screams, "The mountain is on fire." But it is not fire. It is pressure, centuries of it, finally breaking free. You stare in horror as a massive plume begins to climb into the sky, black, dense, and rising with terrifying speed. It twists upward like a monstrous pillar, swallowing the stars. These are the first seconds of the end. And there is no escape. The sound rolls across Pompeii again, a booming roar, deep and resonant, as if the mountain is speaking for the first time in centuries. People pour into the streets, half-dressed, clutching blankets, children, tools, anything they manage to grab in panic. The ash falls more steadily now, settling in hair, on clothes, on rooftops where it begins to collect in thin, ominous layers. You hear a woman shouting for her husband, her voice trembling. A man shouts orders to his neighbors to stay calm, though he himself cannot stop shaking. Lamps flare along the street as more doors swing open. The entire city, moments ago still and tense, now churns with fear. Above you, the plume rising from Vesuvius expands at a terrifying pace. It grows wider, thicker, darker, a column of ash and gas thrust skyward by unimaginable force. Lightning flickers inside the cloud, jagged and silent, illuminating the swirling chaos within. Someone gasps. Someone else falls to their knees. The ground trembles again, more violently this time. Roof tiles slide off houses, crashing onto the stone road. A section of wall near a shop collapses in a cloud of dust. People scream and run from the debris. In the forum, panic spreads like wildfire. The statues, once proud symbols of Roman strength, now loom like pale ghosts through the swirling ash. Citizens rush in every direction, some heading toward the city gates, others toward the temples, hoping the gods will intervene. But the gods are silent tonight. A young girl grabs your hand without hesitation, eyes wide with terror. "Where do we go?" she cries. Before you can answer, her mother snatches her away, face pale, tears streaking down her cheeks. They vanish into the crowd. You feel the heat growing. Not from the air, but from above, from the expanding column of fire and ash. The sky glows a sickening shade of red-orange behind the black plume, as though dawn has come hours too early and far too violently. Another explosion rips through the night, louder than anything before. A fiery burst shoots upward from the crater, illuminating the clouds from below. The ground convulses, throwing several people off their feet. You grab the edge of a fountain to keep from falling. A massive piece of stone breaks loose from a nearby building, crashing into the street and sending shards flying. A man cries out as debris strikes his shoulder, knocking him down. Two strangers rush to help him. Panic has not yet erased all humanity, but soon, it will test it. The ash thickens into coarse, gritty flakes that sting your eyes and stick to your lips. You can barely see more than a few steps ahead without squinting. Breathing becomes painful, as though inhaling a furnace full of dust and smoke. A mother runs past, carrying her infant. The baby coughs, tiny chest heaving with effort. The mother presses cloth against the child's face, but the fabric quickly turns gray. She doesn't slow down. Through the haze, you hear the first rumble of falling stones, ejecta hurled from the mountain's mouth. Small at first, like distant hail. Then heavier. A rock the size of your fist crashes onto the street several meters away, cracking the stone. People scream and scatter. The eruption has begun. Not the deadly surge that will come later, but the first lethal wave: ash, pumice, heat, and shock. Pompeii is no longer a city. It is a trap, sealing its inhabitants inside with every falling stone. As dawn approaches, the city is unrecognizable. Ash covers the streets like a thick snowfall, turning once vibrant colors into muted shades of gray. The torches flicker in the heavy air, their flames barely visible through the swirling dust. Every breath is a struggle. People move in frantic waves, trying to flee toward the gates. Entire families push against each other, carrying what little they manage to grab. But the roads are slick with ash, and the tremors make every step uncertain. The air is filled with coughing, shouting, and the distant crash of collapsing buildings. A man rides a horse through the chaos, urging everyone to leave. But the horse panics, rearing high before collapsing under a shower of falling stones. The rider scrambles to his feet as others pull him away from the lifeless animal. The sky has turned completely black. Not like night, worse. Thick ash blocks the sun entirely, plunging Pompeii into an early, terrifying darkness. Lanterns barely pierce the gloom. People clutch each other, moving blindly through streets they've known all their lives but can no longer recognize. A deafening crack echoes from the direction of the harbor. You turn to see a portion of the sea wall crumble, swallowed by a violent tremor. The ground feels unstable beneath your feet, shifting like something alive. At the Temple of Apollo, statues topple as the earth shudders again. Columns sway dangerously. The priest who lit incense hours earlier now staggers out, choking on ash, his white robes turning gray. He looks up at the sky and collapses to his knees, whispering prayers swallowed by the roar of the mountain. The pumice rain intensifies. Stones slam onto rooftops, smashing through tiles and sending shards raining down. People run from the buildings, terrified of being buried alive. A large chunk of pumice crashes beside you, nearly knocking you off your feet. It's warm, shockingly warm. A woman screams your name. You don't know her, but you reach her anyway. Her husband is trapped beneath a fallen beam, pinned by the leg. She begs for help. You and two other men lift the beam with trembling hands. He's freed, but the moment he stands, another tremor hits, sending more debris crashing down. They flee into the swirling darkness. Some citizens try to shelter inside their homes, believing thick walls will protect them. But the roofs cannot bear the weight of falling pumice. One collapses nearby with a sickening roar, burying the entire family inside before they can escape. The air grows hotter. Not warm, hot, suffocating, like being trapped inside a furnace. The pumice falling now feels like burning hail. You cover your head with your arms, sprinting toward an archway for shelter. A man beside you suddenly gasps and falls, clutching his chest. The ash has suffocated him. His family screams, trying to lift him, shake him, anything, but it is too late. The darkness deepens as the plume spreads overhead. Thunder rumbles, but it is not storm thunder. It's volcanic lightning tearing through the ash cloud, bright veins of white-blue light illuminating the sky in terrifying flashes. Every instinct tells you to run, but run where? The gates are clogged. The streets are collapsing. The sky is falling. Pompeii is being buried alive. By the time morning should have arrived, there is no light, only a suffocating, ash-filled darkness that presses against your eyes. People hold torches, but the flames sputter and die quickly, choked by the lack of oxygen. The air grows unbearably thick. You stumble through the forum, now a wasteland of collapsed columns and drifting piles of pumice. Statues lie broken, half buried, their once perfect faces cracked by falling stones. The ground trembles every few minutes, each quake worse than the last. A group of citizens attempts to organize an escape. They shout for everyone to head toward the Nasirian gate, claiming it's still open. Dozens follow, desperate for any chance at survival. But as you join the moving crowd, the tremors intensify. A building collapses ahead, blocking the street completely. Panic surges like a wave. People push, trip, fall. Children scream. The ash storm thickens, blinding you. Suddenly, a dull thud hits your shoulder hard. A piece of pumice the size of a fist bounces off and falls to the ground. It's hot enough to scorch your skin through your clothes. You stumble into the wall of a nearby house, coughing violently. Breathing burns. Every inhale feels like swallowing fire. You cover your mouth with a piece of cloth, but it does little to help. Around you, people do the same, ripping sleeves from tunics, covering children with cloaks, anything to filter the deadly air. Another explosion shakes the mountain, louder than all before. A shockwave blasts through the city, knocking you to your knees. Windows shatter. Doors fly off their hinges. The ash cloud grows denser still, swirling like a living creature devouring the sky. Some citizens collapse where they stand, overcome by exhaustion, heat, and suffocation. Others stagger forward blindly, refusing to give up even as the city falls apart around them. A man tries to climb over a pile of debris blocking the street. As he reaches the top, the ground lurches violently. He slips, disappearing beneath a cascade of falling stones. His wife's scream is lost in the roar of the tremor. You manage to pull yourself upright, gripping the side of a fountain for balance. The water inside is black with ash, bubbling strangely as if heated from below. Steam rises from its surface. Your heart pounds as realization strikes. The underground water is boiling. The city is cooking from the inside out. A group of people huddle near the base of the Jupiter temple, trying to find shelter under an archway. But the arch cracks, groans, and collapses, crushing them instantly beneath tons of stone. Their cries end abruptly. You stagger back, horrified. More stones fall. More screams fade. More roofs cave in under the relentless weight of pumice. Your lungs feel tight, your vision blurs, and dizziness washes over you. The air is too thin. Too toxic. Too hot. Every breath is a battle you are losing. The eruption is only in its early stages, but Pompeii is already beginning to die. The night was unrelenting. Pompeii had become a city swallowed by gray. Thick ash had already begun to coat every surface, the cobblestones, the rooftops, the fountains, even the few trees that survived the crowded streets. Lanterns flickered, their flames struggling against the suffocating haze. Visibility was reduced to mere meters, and shadows moved like wraiths, twisting unnaturally as citizens stumbled blindly through the city. The air was thick with the bitter scent of sulfur, and every inhalation burned the throat and lungs. You push forward through the chaos, your heart pounding in tandem with the trembling ground. Around you, people cry out for family members they cannot locate. Some carry children, others drag the elderly or struggle with bundles of possessions that are already too heavy to manage. Their faces are pale, eyes wide with terror, and voices hoarse from shouting. Many fall mid-step, overcome by heat, ash, or sheer exhaustion. The eruption has already begun to claim its first victims. Above, Vesuvius glares at the city with an otherworldly fury. A pulsing red glow is visible through the dense ash cloud, flickering like molten veins coursing through the mountain's core. Each pulse illuminates the outlines of crumbling roofs and panicked citizens, revealing a city teetering on the edge of destruction. Every tremor shakes the streets, toppling unsteady walls and dislodging roof tiles, sending them clattering onto the ground like deadly hail. In the forum, a group of people attempt to organize a path to the Nasirian gate. They shout over the roar of the mountain, gesturing frantically. Children cling desperately to their parents, their small bodies trembling with fear. The elderly stumble, some falling, unable to continue. You see a man pulled under the weight of a collapsing wall, screaming as debris buries him. People stop to help, but the ash storm is merciless, and soon the voices of those trapped are silenced. The pumice rain has intensified, now falling in thick, hot chunks that sting through clothing. You shield your head and sprint toward what seems to be a slightly clearer street. The roar of the mountain is deafening now, punctuated by violent explosions that throw shockwaves through the ground. Each shock sends tremors up your legs, making every stone and debris more unstable. You stumble into a narrow alley, nearly colliding with a group of terrified women and children huddled together. They whisper prayers, words of desperation in every language they know, but the mountain is deaf to pleas. The ash falls heavier, the heat intensifies, and the sulfurous air grows unbearable. You hear distant crashes as roofs give way and entire buildings collapse. Lightning streaks within the ash cloud above, jagged and electric, illuminating the night in terrifying flashes. For a fleeting moment, you see the chaos in its entirety, the broken streets, the fleeing citizens, the burning sky, and the relentless mountain spewing death from above. Every pulse of light reveals bodies scattered across the streets, some tripping over others, some crushed beneath rubble, some frozen in terror. Pompeii is no longer a city. It is a battlefield. Its citizens are caught between collapsing architecture and the unrelenting wrath of a waking mountain. There is no plan, no direction, only the frantic instinct to survive, to breathe, to move, even as each step becomes more treacherous. And yet, no one dares stop. Stopping means death. Every breath you take is heavy, burning, and wet with ash. Your vision is blurred. The streets are rivers of rubble and panic. Pompeii groans and trembles beneath the onslaught, slowly succumbing to the unstoppable force that has been building for centuries. And somewhere inside you, a single, undeniable truth emerges: this night will claim everything, and there will be no dawn. By now, the first pyroclastic surge races through the outskirts of the city. A wall of searing air moves with terrifying speed, flattening everything in its path. You feel it before you see it, a sudden, unbearable heat pressing against your chest, making your lungs burn. Citizens are hurled to the ground, toppled like ragdolls, while buildings crumble under the immense weight and pressure. The sound is deafening, a roar that drowns out screams, prayers, and even the desperate pounding of your own heart. A woman ahead of you struggles to lift a child, but the scorching wind pushes them both down. People scream in panic as debris from collapsing roofs and walls rains around them. Horses, cattle, and dogs flee in every direction, but the surge is too fast. Those caught cannot escape, their bodies are thrown across the streets like empty sacks. You run blindly, coughing and gagging, trying to find an alley or shelter, but the streets themselves have betrayed the citizens. Every surface is slick with ash, dust, and falling stones. Even the strongest houses cannot withstand the surge. Roofs collapse, walls crack and crumble, and marble columns that once symbolized Pompeii's pride are shattered into jagged fragments. In the Forum, you see groups attempting to flee, clutching children and elderly parents. Their faces are pale, eyes wide with terror. Yet every step they take is met with falling pumice, scorching ash, and the constant tremor of the earth. Some stumble into the arms of the surge, and their screams are quickly silenced. The crowd becomes a frantic, moving mass, shifting unpredictably as people push past one another in desperation. Above, Vesuvius towers, a monstrous column of smoke, ash, and fire. Lightning cracks across the plume, illuminating streets choked with fleeing citizens and collapsing buildings. The volcano rumbles with a rhythm that shakes the soul, and every heartbeat seems to echo its fury. You try to shelter under a collapsed archway, pressed against the stone, but the heat is unbearable. Ash scours your skin, clogging your lungs with every breath. You see a man collapse nearby, overcome, his wife clutching him in vain. Others are crushed under the weight of tiles and rubble. Survival is a fleeting, fragile hope. The surge sweeps through, unstoppable. The city, once alive with laughter, commerce, and chatter, is now a ghostly labyrinth of destruction. Flames lick across exposed timber, buildings topple like dominoes, and the mountain continues to spew pumice and molten rock into the streets. Every instinct urges you to move, to flee, but the city itself seems to conspire against escape. The roads are blocked, streets twist unpredictably, and the ash storm reduces visibility to nothing. You push forward, lungs burning, limbs heavy, aware that every second spent exposed is a second closer to death. Pompeii is dying, and there is no mercy for those trapped in the streets. Only the relentless surge of heat, fire, and ash, unyielding, all-consuming, and indifferent to life. The city groans as if alive, each tremor a cry of pain. Buildings that had stood for centuries collapse beneath the weight of volcanic debris. Ash falls like relentless rain, coating streets, squares, and alleys in suffocating gray. The air is thick, almost solid, making every breath a battle. You cough violently, covering your mouth, but the stench of sulfur and burning rock invades your lungs regardless. From above, pumice and stones rain down, some the size of fists, others large enough to crush roofs or shatter walls. The sky is a solid column of black and red, lightning slicing through it in ghostly flashes that illuminate streets now littered with bodies and debris. The air is so hot that clothing and skin burn on contact. You see people around you collapse, overcome by heat and suffocation, their screams quickly swallowed by the mountain's roar. The Forum, once a place of pride and social gathering, is unrecognizable. Columns lie shattered, statues toppled and half buried in ash, fountains clogged and overflowing with pumice. People run blindly through the streets, tripping over rubble, over others, or being pushed into collapsing buildings. The few who try to organize others are swept away in the chaos, powerless against the eruption. The pyroclastic surge advances with terrifying speed. The heat presses against your chest, lungs, and throat. The ash burns through every layer of clothing, every ounce of exposed skin. You see families clutching one another, parents shielding children, yet even their determination is no match for the unstoppable forces around them. Vesuvius pulses like a living, malignant heart, ejecting more pumice, fire, and smoke with every heartbeat. The mountain is alive, and Pompeii is its prey. The streets twist into rivers of debris and fleeing citizens, each step a gamble with death. Roofs cave, walls fall, and the smell of burning human and animal flesh mingles with sulfur. You glance at the city you once knew. It is gone. Pompeii is a tomb under ash and fire, a grave for thousands. The mountain continues to roar, indifferent to the cries of those it claims. Lungs fail, bodies collapse, screams fade. The eruption is not mercy, it is annihilation. Even now, as you stumble through the chaos, there is one undeniable truth: no one will survive. Pompeii is gone. The streets of Pompeii are no longer streets, they are rivers of chaos, rivers thick with ash, pumice, and human desperation. Every step you take is perilous, stones and tiles crash around you with unrelenting rhythm, propelled by the mountain's fury. You stumble over a fallen cart, narrowly avoiding being crushed by a cascade of broken jars. The air burns in your lungs, a choking mixture of smoke, ash, and the acrid stench of sulfur, making each breath a laborious effort. People push past one another, desperate to escape, yet the streets have betrayed them. Narrow alleys funnel the fleeing into bottlenecks where panic magnifies. Mothers scream, clutching children whose eyes are wide with terror. Fathers shout orders, but their words are drowned by the deafening roar of the mountain. Elderly citizens collapse under the weight of fear and exhaustion, their bodies dragged or abandoned as the crowd surges forward. You notice animals fleeing in all directions, dogs yelp, horses rear and collapse, some thrown into the walls of buildings that crumble under the relentless pumice and rock. The few lamps that remain flicker weakly, casting grotesque shadows on walls cracked by tremors. The sky above is a hellish swirl of black ash and red fire, lit sporadically by lightning that splits the smoke with ghostly illumination. Every flash reveals more destruction: roofs collapsed, columns toppled, streets littered with debris and the desperate. A sudden tremor shakes the ground violently, throwing you to your knees. Stones the size of fists rain down, smashing into walls and crushing anything in their path. You help a woman and her child scramble out of the way, feeling the heat on your skin as if the air itself is ablaze. The child coughs violently, lungs burning, and the mother's voice trembles as she prays, but there is no God here to hear them. The mountain above pulses like a living entity. Every explosion, every surge of ash and pumice, is a heartbeat of destruction. The column of smoke rises higher, twisting and writhing as though alive, spewing lightning and fire. The roar is continuous now, a constant reminder that this is no ordinary eruption. This is annihilation in motion. A section of the forum collapses under the weight of the falling pumice. Statues shatter, fountains overflow with gray sludge, and citizens are hurled from the streets into rubble. You see people you have known all your life, faces contorted in terror, bodies moving instinctively towards safety but finding none. Some fall, some are crushed, some vanish beneath the debris. Panic is total, and survival depends on the slightest luck. You move as best you can, heart hammering, lungs burning, eyes stinging with ash. Every sense is overwhelmed: the heat, the noise, the choking air, the cries of the dying. Pompeii is no longer a city of life, it is a city of the condemned, dragged into death by a mountain that has awakened in fury. The pyroclastic surge has reached the heart of the city. The air itself seems molten, pressing against you with oppressive heat that makes breathing nearly impossible. You stagger through streets now unrecognizable, cobblestones hidden beneath thick layers of ash and pumice. Buildings that had stood for centuries are reduced to rubble within moments, their wooden beams splintering, tiles sliding like molten shrapnel. Every step is dangerous, every glance reveals new destruction. People scream in all directions. Families are torn apart in the chaos. A mother holds her child high above her head, struggling against the surge, yet the wind of heat and ash knocks them down like toys. An elderly man falls forward, pinned by debris, his cries swallowed by the roar of the mountain. Dogs yelp, horses collapse, and pigeons whirl frantically overhead, their wings beating against ash-filled skies. The air grows hotter, almost suffocating. You feel your skin burn despite layers of clothing. The ground trembles constantly, throwing tiles and stones into the streets. Every flash of lightning in the volcano's smoke column illuminates streets strewn with bodies, debris, and toppled structures. Some are alive, scrambling, coughing, choking, others are already silent beneath layers of ash. You duck under the remains of a collapsed archway, coughing violently. The heat presses against your chest like a furnace, your lungs heaving for every ounce of oxygen. Around you, the city is collapsing in real time. Roofs cave, walls splinter, and stones rain down from above. The ash is relentless, clinging to every surface, turning streets into sliding, suffocating slopes. Through the haze, you see a man attempting to guide children toward a slightly clearer street. One child slips, falls into the surge, and the man's cry is cut short as the wave sweeps him away. Another mother cries, clutching her baby, pressing a cloth to its face, but it does little against the choking, burning ash. Survival is measured in inches and seconds. Vesuvius pulses above, an indifferent giant. Every eruption, every flash of red and lightning, signals another second of death. The mountain spews stones, pumice, and toxic gas with merciless precision. Pompeii has become a tomb, its streets clogged with the desperate, the dying, and the dead. The city is no longer recognizable. The forum, the marketplaces, the baths, all are buried beneath the relentless assault of fire, ash, and rock. You push forward, moving as instinct demands, but the streets twist unpredictably. Debris falls from above. Walls groan, collapse, crush. The air is thick, almost solid, and each breath is a battle you are barely winning. The realization is unavoidable: Pompeii cannot survive. The mountain has claimed the city, and only those lucky enough to flee before the surge could hope to live. But luck is scarce. Every corner you turn brings new horrors, new obstacles, new chances of death. And yet you move, because stopping means immediate annihilation. By now, morning should have arrived, but the sky is a solid curtain of black and red. Sunlight does not penetrate the ash-filled air. The streets are rivers of molten gray pumice, boiling under the weight of falling debris. The roar of the mountain is continuous, punctuated by explosions that shake the ground with staggering force. Every tremor threatens to throw you to the ground, to bury you beneath falling tiles and beams. People move blindly, driven by instinct and fear. Mothers clutch children, fathers push past others to protect family, the elderly stumble, and animals flee in every direction. The air is thick and almost solid, choking anyone who tries to breathe normally. Every inhalation is an effort, every movement a gamble with death. Buildings collapse in real time, roofs giving way, walls splintering, shops and homes reduced to rubble. The forum is unrecognizable, columns toppled, statues broken, fountains clogged with ash and pumice. Streets are blocked by debris, forcing people into narrow alleys where survival is even less likely. You see figures struggling, tripping over rubble, over one another, falling into the surge of heat and ash. Some scream, some cry, others go silent without warning. The pyroclastic flow reaches temperatures so intense that even standing exposed for a few seconds feels like walking through fire. Ash scours the skin, burns the lungs, and blinds the eyes. Piles of pumice cascade from rooftops, crushing anyone beneath. The wind of the surge knocks people off their feet, carrying them helplessly forward, mixing with the screaming and coughing of the survivors. Vesuvius towers above it all, pulsing with molten fury. Every explosion, every surge of ash and pumice, is a pulse of death. Lightning slices through the dark sky, illuminating streets filled with chaos. The city is a grave in motion, alive only with the screams of those fighting a hopeless battle. You stumble, gasping for breath, lungs burning, vision blurred. Around you, bodies lie beneath rubble, some moving feebly, others silent forever. The city you knew, the markets, temples, homes, is buried under ash, fire, and rock. The mountain is merciless, indifferent to all who had once thrived here. Pompeii is no more. Every heartbeat, every tremor, every second of this eruption has claimed its people. The streets are silent but for the roar of the mountain, the ash falling like snow, and the occasional crack of collapsing structures. There is no dawn here, no hope. The city is a tomb, and its story ends beneath the wrath of Vesuvius. The morning air, if it could still be called air, was thick with suffocating ash and choking smoke. Pompeii had transformed overnight into a living grave. Streets that once teemed with merchants, children, and chatter now lay in ruin, half buried beneath gray pumice and fractured tiles. The few citizens still able to move staggered blindly, coughing and gasping, their lungs burning with every breath. You push forward, muscles trembling, eyes stinging from the ash, stepping over bodies of people and animals alike. Horses lie sprawled across cobblestones, still tethered to broken carts, dogs yelp, trapped under fallen beams. The streets are impassable in many places, the weight of rubble forcing desperate detours. Even familiar alleyways seem alien, twisted by the collapse of houses and shops. Through the haze, you hear frantic cries. Mothers call for children who cannot answer, fathers search for wives who vanished moments before. The screams are punctuated by the constant roar of Vesuvius, a monstrous, living entity, spitting fire, ash, and rocks with unrelenting fury. Lightning flickers inside the towering smoke column, illuminating the chaos in stark, horrifying flashes. Every revelation is worse than the last: collapsed roofs, toppled columns, streets slick with ash, desperate citizens tripping over one another, or disappearing into sudden pits of rubble. You reach the Forum, once the heart of civic life, now a battlefield of chaos. The fountains are clogged with gray sludge, marble statues broken into jagged fragments, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. A merchant attempts to guide children toward the city gates, but the surge of ash is relentless. One child trips and is swallowed by the gray flow, the man's scream cutting through the air only briefly before the mountain's roar devours it. Others fall beside him, their bodies disappearing beneath the unyielding ash. Heat presses against your skin, burning through clothes. Every breath is a struggle. You stumble into an archway, pressing your back against the crumbling stone. Sweat and ash coat your face as you attempt to catch your breath, lungs on fire. The smell of sulfur is overpowering, mingling with the acrid stench of burning wood and collapsing flesh. You blink rapidly, trying to see through the gray haze, catching glimpses of people running, collapsing, or screaming in place, unable to flee. A sudden tremor shakes the ground violently, dislodging tiles and beams from above. You dive sideways as a cascade of rubble crashes where you were standing moments before. Above, Vesuvius pulses, a living, malevolent force. The red glow from the crater illuminates the city in horrifying bursts. Every eruption, every pulse of smoke and fire, is a heartbeat of annihilation. You force yourself onward, each step a painful battle against ash, heat, and terror. Around you, Pompeii continues to die in real time. The streets are a nightmare labyrinth, littered with bodies, debris, and the relentless surge of pumice and ash. Panic is total, survival depends on the slightest flicker of chance. And yet, moving, breathing, surviving, even for a few moments, is all that remains. Pompeii, once a city of life and laughter, now feels suspended between memory and oblivion. The mountain above shows no mercy. Every pulse, every rumble, every gust of heat is a reminder that the city's end is complete, and the living are only fleeting shadows against the inevitable tomb. The city groans beneath the mountain's wrath. Each street seems narrower than before, a twisting gauntlet of ash, rubble, and terrified people. You stumble forward, lungs burning with every inhale of the thick, choking air. The roar of Vesuvius is relentless, a sound so powerful it vibrates through your very bones. Every tremor, every distant explosion, throws tiles and stones into the streets, forcing you to duck and scramble to avoid being crushed. A pyroclastic surge hits a nearby square with terrifying force. The heat washes over you before the debris reaches, scorching your skin and igniting wooden beams that still cling to half-collapsed buildings. Citizens scream and collapse in the surge's path, their bodies flung to the sides like rag dolls. Horses bolt in panic, carts overturn, and the wind carries ash and burning fragments that sting eyes and lungs alike. Through the haze, you see a family huddled beneath a shattered portico. The mother clutches her child, the father shielding them both. They are frozen in terror as a wave of ash and fire races toward them. You shout, urging them to move, but movement is nearly impossible, footing is slippery, rubble blocks the path, and the surge is faster than instinct alone. Lightning flashes inside the smoke column above, illuminating the city in hellish bursts. Each flash reveals streets lined with debris, collapsing walls, and people caught mid-stride, their faces etched with desperation. You see bodies buried beneath a fallen roof, others tripping over the scattered tiles, their screams fading under the roar of the mountain. The air vibrates with the sound of collapsing structures, each collapse echoing like a drum of doom. You press on, feeling heat scorch your arms and face. Ash clings to every surface, making movement heavy and visibility near zero. The smell of sulfur is overpowering, mixing with smoke, burning wood, and the faint, horrific scent of human panic. Every breath feels like inhaling fire. Your chest tightens, your legs ache, but stopping is not an option, the mountain will not wait for hesitation. Above, Vesuvius pulses in rhythm with the destruction below. Each eruption pushes more pumice, ash, and molten rock into the city streets. The sky is a living nightmare of black and red, with lightning that seems to split the air itself. You glimpse a merchant desperately dragging his children through the chaos, only to see them swept off by a surge of heat and ash. His scream pierces the storm, then is gone. The city is no longer recognizable. Streets you knew by heart have vanished under rubble, houses are reduced to piles of ash and shattered timber, fountains are clogged with gray sludge, statues lie broken, their features frozen in silent terror. Yet the living push forward, stumbling, falling, rising, driven by raw instinct to survive. Pompeii is dying, and everyone who remains is caught in the slow, merciless collapse of civilization under fire, rock, and ash. Darkness falls, but the sky offers no relief. The once blue heavens are replaced by a swirling mass of black ash and fiery red clouds. Lightning cuts through the dense column of smoke, illuminating Pompeii in horrific flashes that reveal the true scale of destruction. Buildings crumble in real time, roofs splinter, and walls collapse, hurling debris across streets now impassable. You move forward cautiously, lungs searing, eyes stinging, every step a battle against the choking ash. The streets are a river of chaos. People push past each other blindly, tripping over rubble, bodies, and overturned carts. Mothers clutch children to their chests, whispering prayers they do not expect to be answered. Fathers drag relatives toward narrow alleys, only to be stopped by fallen beams or thick ash blocking the path. Panic multiplies, spreading like a contagion. Every sound, a scream, a collapse, a cry for help, is amplified by the vast emptiness of the ruined city. Horses gallop in terror, only to collapse under falling rubble. Dogs yelp, trapped under half-collapsed walls. Pigeons swirl frantically above, then vanish into the choking haze. The air is heavy with sulfur, smoke, and the scent of burning timber. Every inhale burns, every step threatens collapse, and every glance reveals more death. The mountain's fury is everywhere, relentless, total, and indifferent. A sudden tremor shakes the ground violently. Tiles rain from rooftops, striking the streets with deadly precision. You duck, barely avoiding a falling beam that would have ended everything. People around you scream and scramble for cover, some falling, others losing consciousness. The heat presses on your back, lungs, and face, as if the city itself were an oven fueled by molten rock. Through the haze, you catch glimpses of people trying to guide the helpless, children, the elderly, the injured, but the pyroclastic flow is faster, stronger, unstoppable. One man carries a small child through a narrow alley, only for both to be engulfed by a wave of heat and ash, leaving behind only a void where life had been moments ago. The Forum, once the heart of Pompeii, is now unrecognizable. Columns lie shattered, statues broken, fountains clogged with grey pumice. The streets are filled with debris, smoke, and desperate citizens. Every corner you turn reveals new horrors: collapsed homes, toppled merchant stalls, animals trapped and dying, and the constant roar of the mountain above. You stumble onward, heat scorching, lungs burning, vision blurred. The city you knew is gone. Pompeii has become a tomb under ash, pumice, and fire. The living are fleeting shadows against the unstoppable force of Vesuvius. Survival is measured in inches and seconds, and even that is fragile. The mountain above shows no mercy, and every heartbeat is a reminder that the city's destruction is complete, absolute, and indifferent to those trapped within. The streets of Pompeii are unrecognizable. What had once been bustling marketplaces, homes, and squares is now an indistinguishable field of gray, black, and red. Ash falls relentlessly, thick and suffocating, coating every surface, every living thing, every remaining breath. You stumble forward, coughing violently, lungs on fire, heart hammering in panic and exhaustion. The roar of Vesuvius is omnipresent, a monstrous, living sound that shakes the ground and rattles every remaining structure. People push past each other blindly, some falling, others stumbling over debris. Mothers clutch their children, pressing them to their chests in desperate protection. Fathers drag relatives along narrow alleys, but the weight of rubble and ash slows progress to a crawl. The streets are rivers of death, every step threatens collapse, every glance reveals another hazard. Horses collapse mid-stride, carts overturn, dogs yelp trapped under fallen timber. Survival is a lottery, measured in inches and seconds, and luck is fleeting. Above, the smoke column rises like a living monster. Its fiery heart pulses, throwing molten light across the city in fleeting bursts. Lightning arcs inside the plume, casting stark shadows over ruined streets and crumbling buildings. Each flash reveals new horrors: a collapsed roof burying a family, a merchant pinned under his wares, children frozen in terror, the living pressed against walls as ash and pumice wash over them. You duck under a broken archway, pressing against the stone, trying to shield yourself from falling tiles and molten fragments. The heat presses in, scorching your skin through your clothes. Every inhale burns your lungs, every exhale fills your mouth with ash. You glimpse a woman trying to guide her child towards safety, only to see both swept away by a sudden wave of heat. Her scream pierces the air before it is devoured by the mountain's roar. A tremor shakes the ground violently, sending tiles, stones, and beams raining down. You dive sideways, barely avoiding a cascade of rubble. The streets twist and turn unpredictably, forcing you to navigate a labyrinth of death and debris. Piles of pumice trap those slower or weaker. The wind carries ash into every crevice, every crack, every corner of the city, as though the mountain itself is consuming Pompeii piece by piece. You move onward, legs trembling, lungs burning, vision blurred by the thick haze. Around you, the city continues to die in real time. Buildings collapse, streets flood with ash and debris, and the few remaining living souls push forward, driven by raw instinct. Pompeii is no longer a city of life. It is a city of shadows, a tomb in motion, and every heartbeat is a reminder that survival is temporary, fragile, and rare. The Forum, once the heart of civic life, is now a nightmare landscape. Columns lie shattered, statues reduced to jagged fragments, fountains clogged with thick gray sludge. Every building that had stood for centuries groans and collapses under the relentless weight of ash and pumice. You step carefully, navigating piles of rubble, broken tiles, and the bodies of those who could not escape in time. Every inhale fills your lungs with smoke, sulfur, and fine ash that sears the throat. People stumble blindly through the chaos, mothers clutching children, fathers dragging the elderly. Horses collapse mid-step, dogs yelp trapped under debris, pigeons scatter in frantic, erratic flights, only to vanish into the choking haze. Panic spreads like wildfire. Voices rise and fade in waves, screams swallowed by the roar of Vesuvius, which pulses like a living heart above the city. A sudden pyroclastic surge races across a nearby street, and you see its terrifying effects unfold in seconds. A family huddled beneath a half-collapsed portico is lifted off their feet, thrown into the ash and rubble. Their screams cut sharply through the air, then vanish under the mountain's roar. The heat presses like molten iron, every inhalation burning your lungs. You shield your face, coughing, stumbling through the choking haze, desperately trying to avoid the flow of death that sweeps the streets. Above, the mountain's smoke column pulses with violent energy. Lightning slices through it, casting the forum in hellish strobe flashes that reveal devastation in stark clarity. Every flash shows more buildings collapsing, more streets blocked with debris, more citizens caught in impossible situations. Some scream, some pray, some fall silent under the crushing weight of ash and rubble. The heat, suffocating and relentless, seems to bend reality, making the city feel like it is melting in fire. You press forward, lungs burning, muscles trembling, vision blurred. Streets twist unpredictably, funnels of debris channel citizens into areas where escape is nearly impossible. Roofs collapse overhead, tiles and stones rain down, and the heat of the surge sears everything it touches. Each moment feels like an eternity. The city is a battlefield between survival and annihilation, and the mountain shows no mercy. Even as you stumble forward, you catch glimpses of people still trying to help each other. A man lifts a fallen child from the rubble, carrying them through a narrow alley as heat and ash press against them. A mother shields her baby with her body, whispering prayers in vain. Yet for every act of bravery, the mountain claims another life, erasing it as if it had never existed. Pompeii, the proud, thriving city, is now a grave. Every heartbeat, every tremor, every puff of ash is a reminder that the mountain has taken everything. Survival is fleeting. The living are shadows, barely holding on to life as the city crumbles beneath fire, ash, and rock. And yet, somehow, you move, step by step, chasing the faintest glimmer of escape in a city that no longer exists as it once did. The streets of Pompeii have become a maze of devastation, a labyrinth where every turn presents a new threat. Piles of ash and pumice rise like walls, funneling the living into narrow passages where survival is a fragile illusion. You stumble forward, each step uncertain, lungs on fire, eyes stinging from the relentless ash. The roar of Vesuvius dominates all sound, shaking the ground, toppling walls, and drowning out cries for help. Citizens push past one another in desperation. Mothers clutch children to their chests, pressing them against their bodies to shield them from flying debris. Fathers drag the elderly, their strength failing under the combined weight of family and rubble. Horses collapse mid-stride, carts overturn, dogs yelp, trapped under broken beams. The few who can still move are swept along like leaves in a storm, powerless against the relentless flow of destruction. Lightning flashes inside the smoke column above, illuminating the city in terrifying bursts. Every flash reveals new horrors, a roof collapsing on a family, a merchant crushed under his wares, children frozen in terror, the living pressed against walls as ash and pumice wash over them. Each revelation is worse than the last, a relentless series of nightmares made real. You press on, heat burning your arms and face, ash clinging to every surface. The smell of sulfur, smoke, and burning timber is overwhelming. Every inhale feels like fire, every exhale carries a mouthful of choking ash. You see a man trying to lift a fallen child, only to be swept away by a wave of heat. His scream pierces the air before being swallowed by the mountain's roar. A tremor shakes the ground violently, dislodging stones and tiles from above. You dive sideways to avoid a cascade of rubble, barely escaping. Streets twist unpredictably, forcing navigation through a deadly maze. The city is collapsing in real time. Roofs cave, walls splinter, tiles rain down, and people stumble, fall, and vanish beneath ash. Pompeii is dying, and only instinct keeps you moving. Every moment is a battle. Every breath is laborious. Every step brings the possibility of death, yet you push forward, lungs burning, legs trembling. Around you, the living struggle, the dying collapse, and the mountain continues its merciless assault. Pompeii is no longer a city, it is a grave, alive only in the horror of those who remain. The pyroclastic wave hits the streets with terrifying speed and heat. You feel it before you see it, a wave of air so hot it scorches skin, carrying ash, pumice, and molten rock with unstoppable force. People scream and collapse instantly, bodies flung sideways or swallowed by the surge. Horses rear and fall, carts are tossed aside, and the ground itself seems to buckle under the mountain's fury. You stumble forward, coughing violently, lungs seared with every breath. The ash is thick and unrelenting, sticking to clothes, skin, and hair. Every inhale burns, every exhale fills your mouth with choking dust. Visibility is near zero. You see only fleeting shadows of those around you, moving or collapsing, their screams swallowed by the roar of Vesuvius. The city is unrecognizable. Streets twist and narrow under the weight of debris. Piles of pumice trap those who fall, roofs collapse, walls give way, and heat presses against every living being. Mothers clutch children, pressing them close, fathers shield the helpless, elderly stumble or are abandoned. Each movement is a gamble with death. Above, Vesuvius pulses, alive and indifferent. The smoke column twists like a giant serpent, lightning flashing through it, casting brief, hellish illumination over streets of ash, rubble, and chaos. Every flash shows more destruction, a collapsed roof crushing a family, a man buried under his wares, children tripping and vanishing. Survival is fleeting. You duck under a broken archway, trying to protect yourself from falling tiles and molten fragments. The heat presses like fire, lungs burning, vision blurred. A wave of ash and fire sweeps past, swallowing part of the street and everyone on it. The roar of the mountain drowns out every other sound. You press onward, step by step, driven only by instinct. Streets twist unpredictably, funnels of debris channel survivors into dead ends. Tiles and stones rain from above, ash scours your skin, and the air is nearly solid with smoke and sulfur. Pompeii is no longer a city of life, it is a tomb, alive only with the struggle of those who remain. Each heartbeat, each tremor, each inhale is a reminder, survival is temporary, fragile, and rare. Pompeii is consumed by Vesuvius, a city of shadows buried beneath fire, ash, and rock. Yet somehow, you move, step by step, searching for the faintest glimmer of escape in a city that no longer exists as it once did. The air is unbearable, thick with heat and ash that sears the skin. Each step is an effort, every inhale feels like fire, and yet the instinct to survive drives you forward. Pompeii is no longer a city, it is a furnace, a tomb of choking dust, burning timber, and molten stone. Streets you once knew are obscured by rubble, twisted tiles, and the relentless accumulation of pumice. You stumble past collapsed buildings, their walls groaning and splintering. Horses lie dead or trapped, carts overturned, dogs yelp, and pigeons dart in blind panic, disappearing into the gray haze. Every corner reveals new horrors, a mother huddled over her child, a father dragging the elderly, merchants buried under their wares. Survival is measured in inches, seconds, and sheer luck. The roar of Vesuvius dominates everything, vibrating through stone, flesh, and bone. Every explosion sends debris raining down, every tremor topples a roof, every flash of lightning in the smoke column reveals streets filled with death. You duck under a broken archway, shielding your face, coughing violently as ash chokes your lungs. Around you, the city is alive only in the screams and struggles of the few remaining. A sudden surge of heat races down a nearby street, engulfing a family in an instant. You witness the impossible, children lifted into the air, a mother thrown against a wall, the father swept away, all consumed by the relentless wave. The heat is blinding, suffocating, unforgiving. Your heart pounds as you force yourself onward, avoiding debris, falling bodies, and collapsing walls. The Forum is a graveyard. Columns shattered, fountains clogged, statues broken. Every step uncovers new horrors, trapped people, smoldering rubble, ash rising like smoke from the depths. You press forward, muscles trembling, lungs screaming for air, eyes stinging from the choking ash. Pompeii is no longer alive, it is a tomb in motion, devouring all who remain. Even as terror and heat threaten to overwhelm, you move, step by step, driven by instinct. Each heartbeat is a battle, each second a struggle for air and space in a city that is disappearing under fire, rock, and ash. Survival is fleeting, uncertain, and rare, but still, you push forward, determined to escape what has become a living nightmare. Every building you pass is on the verge of collapse. Roofs splinter under the weight of pumice, walls crack and groan, and tiles rain down like deadly hail. The streets are littered with debris, bodies, and overturned carts. You stumble forward, lungs burning, eyes streaming with ash, every step a gamble with death. The city seems alive with destruction, each tremor and roar of Vesuvius a pulse in its terrifying heartbeat. Mothers clutch children, pressing them close to their bodies. Fathers drag the elderly, stumbling over rubble and debris. Horses collapse mid-stride, dogs are trapped, pigeons scatter in frantic flight. Every sound, the screech of metal, the crash of stone, the cry of the living, is amplified by the vast emptiness of streets now lined with destruction. A sudden tremor shakes the ground violently, sending a cascade of tiles and beams crashing down. You dive sideways, narrowly avoiding being crushed. Around you, people fall, stumble, vanish beneath the ash, pumice, and debris. The heat presses like molten iron against your skin, every breath burns your lungs. Visibility is near zero. Survival depends on instinct, reflexes, and the slightest flicker of luck. Through the choking haze, you glimpse acts of desperate courage. A man lifts a small child from beneath rubble, carrying them through the narrow streets. A mother shields her baby, whispering frantic prayers, eyes wide with terror. Yet for every act of bravery, the mountain claims another life. The city's destruction is relentless, indifferent, unstoppable. Lightning flashes in the smoke column above, casting hellish illumination across the city. Each flash reveals streets filled with ash, rubble, and the desperate few who continue to move. Buildings collapse in real time, walls splinter, and roofs fall, crushing anyone in their path. The streets twist and turn unpredictably, making escape nearly impossible. You stumble onward, muscles trembling, lungs burning, vision blurred. Pompeii is no longer a city of life, it is a tomb, alive only with the struggle of the living against the unstoppable fury of Vesuvius. Each heartbeat, each tremor, each gasp for air is a reminder that survival is fleeting, fragile, and rare. And yet, somehow, you keep moving, step by step, searching for a chance, any chance, of escape in a city consumed by fire, ash, and rock. The streets of Pompeii are no longer streets, they are rivers of ash, pumice, and fire. Each step is perilous. You stumble over rubble, stepping carefully over bodies and fallen carts. Horses lie dead or trapped, dogs yelp helplessly, and pigeons whirl frantically before disappearing into the choking haze. The roar of Vesuvius is omnipresent, vibrating through the ground and reverberating in your chest. Every tremor topples more walls, sends tiles raining down, and forces frantic dodges to avoid crushing blows. People push past one another blindly. Mothers clutch children, pressing them to their bodies in desperation. Fathers drag the elderly through narrow alleys, often losing their footing, sometimes abandoning the helpless when escape seems impossible. Panic spreads like wildfire. Screams rise and fade in waves, often swallowed by the mountain's roar. The city itself seems alive, moving with the destruction, as if Pompeii were breathing its last convulsions. A sudden surge of heat and ash races down a nearby street. You witness a family swept away in seconds, the mother pressed to the child, the father flung against rubble. Their screams echo briefly before being devoured by the roar of the mountain. You duck, shielding your face, coughing violently as the air scorches your lungs. visibility is nearly zero. Survival is measured in inches and seconds, and luck is fleeting. Above, the smoke column twists like a living serpent, lightning arcing through it and casting brief, hellish light on the chaos below. Each flash reveals more devastation, collapsed roofs, toppling columns, and citizens caught mid-step, frozen in terror or crushed beneath debris. Piles of pumice trap those who fall, the wind carries ash into every crack and corner. The city is consumed, every heartbeat a reminder that survival is temporary. You stumble forward, lungs burning, legs trembling. Streets twist unpredictably, debris funnels people into dead ends, tiles and stones rain from above, and heat scours every living being. Pompeii is no longer a city, it is a tomb, alive only with the struggle of the living. Each breath, each step, each heartbeat is a battle, yet instinct drives you onward, step by step, chasing the faintest hope of escape. The mountain pulses relentlessly. Every tremor, every roar, every explosion sends new waves of ash, pumice, and molten rock through the city streets. The heat presses against you, lungs searing, skin stinging through clothing. Every step is dangerous, every glance reveals another obstacle, another potential death. Pompeii is alive only in chaos, the living struggling against the unstoppable force of Vesuvius. Citizens stumble blindly through the debris. Mothers clutch children, fathers drag the elderly. Horses collapse, carts overturn, dogs yelp trapped under rubble. Streets twist and narrow unpredictably. Every tremor topples walls, every flash of lightning in the smoke column illuminates new horrors, families buried under roofs, merchants crushed by falling stones, children swept away by pyroclastic flows. Survival is temporary, fragile, and rare. A pyroclastic wave rushes down a nearby street, heat scorching everything it touches. People scream, flung aside or swallowed by ash. You duck under a broken archway, lungs burning, eyes stinging, muscles trembling. The surge engulfs the street you just left, leaving nothing but gray ruin. Every breath fills your mouth with choking ash, every step threatens collapse or crushing tiles. The forum is buried under debris. Columns shattered, statues broken, fountains clogged with ash and pumice. Streets are rivers of death, clogged with rubble, bodies, and falling tiles. Lightning flashes again, illuminating the horror in stark relief. The city is a living tomb, alive only with the screams of those who remain. You press on, step by step, lungs screaming for air, muscles shaking, vision blurred by ash and smoke. Acts of desperation unfold around you. A man lifts a child from beneath rubble, carrying them through a narrow alley. A mother shields her baby with her body, whispering prayers in vain. Yet for every act of bravery, Vesuvius claims another life. Streets funnel the living into dead ends, debris falls from above, and the air is nearly solid with heat and ash. Pompeii is a tomb in motion, a city consumed by fire, rock, and smoke. You stumble forward, step by step, clinging to instinct. Every heartbeat, every inhalation, every step is a reminder that survival is fleeting. The city you knew is gone. Pompeii is dead, buried beneath the mountain's fury, alive only in the struggle of those who remain. And still, somehow, you move, desperate for a chance of escape in a city consumed entirely by destruction. The sky has turned into a furnace. The sun is invisible behind the thick gray and red plume that rises endlessly from Vesuvius. Lightning arcs violently through the smoke, briefly illuminating streets buried in ash and debris. Every flash reveals new scenes of horror, families trapped beneath fallen roofs, merchants pinned under their wares, children frozen in terror. The air is unbreathable, every inhalation a struggle, lungs burning with fire and ash. The ground shakes with violent tremors. Tiles and stones rain from rooftops, collapsing walls split under the weight of debris, and the streets twist into labyrinths of death. Horses collapse mid-stride, dogs yelp trapped under rubble, and human cries echo through the ruins, swallowed by the roar of the mountain. Survival is measured in inches, seconds, and sheer instinct. Every move, every step, could be the last. You stumble forward, coughing violently, lungs on fire. Piles of pumice block alleys, forcing detours through streets clogged with the dying and the dead. Mothers clutch children, fathers drag the elderly, and everywhere, people push desperately toward non-existent exits. Ash sticks to your skin, eyes sting, and visibility is near zero. The city is consumed, every heartbeat a reminder of its relentless destruction. A sudden pyroclastic surge races down a nearby street. Heat sears your arms, molten fragments fly, and people are swept aside instantly. You dive under a broken archway, shielding your body. Around you, survival is fleeting. Each flash of lightning reveals the horror anew, streets filled with rubble, collapsing roofs, and the desperate few still moving. The mountain shows no mercy. The forum is now a tomb. Columns lie shattered, fountains clogged, statues broken into jagged fragments. Every building trembles as if the city itself were alive, writhing in pain. Streets funnel survivors into dead ends, tiles and debris rain from above, the air presses like a furnace. Pompeii is no longer a city, it is a grave in motion, alive only in the struggle of the living, who cling to life against impossible odds. The final hours of Pompeii stretch out in a blur of heat, ash, and terror. The streets are nearly impassable, a chaotic maze of rubble, dead bodies, and collapsing buildings. Ash falls like snow, thick and suffocating, coating every surface and obscuring vision. The roar of Vesuvius dominates all sound, shaking the ground, toppling walls, and consuming every remaining breath. People stumble blindly. Mothers clutch children, fathers drag the elderly, horses collapse, carts overturn, dogs cry trapped under debris. The city funnels the living into narrow alleys where death waits in the form of falling tiles, walls, or molten heat. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat is a gamble. Survival is temporary, fragile, and rare. Lightning flashes inside the smoke column above, illuminating the horror in brief, hellish bursts. You see collapsed roofs, streets clogged with debris, families trapped, children flung aside by surges of heat. The city is alive only in panic, a living nightmare of desperation, fire, and destruction. The few who remain move like shadows, instinct guiding them through the chaos. A sudden tremor sends a cascade of rubble onto the street. You dive sideways, narrowly avoiding crushing tiles. The heat presses like molten iron against your skin, lungs burning with every breath. Visibility is near zero, ash choking eyes and throat. The city twists unpredictably, streets turning into dead ends. You stumble forward, muscles trembling, heart pounding, lungs screaming. Acts of desperation unfold around you. A man carries a child through narrow streets, dodging debris. A mother shields her baby, whispering prayers that will never be answered. Yet for every act of courage, the mountain claims another life. Pompeii is a tomb, alive only in the struggle of the living. Every heartbeat, every inhalation, every step is a reminder that survival is fleeting. The city you knew is gone, buried beneath ash, fire, and molten rock, alive only in memory and terror. The air is unbearable, thick with heat, ash, and the choking scent of sulfur. Streets have vanished beneath layers of pumice and debris. Buildings collapse in real time, walls splinter, roofs crumble, and the city groans under the weight of the mountain's fury. Pompeii is no longer recognizable, it is a landscape of death and despair. Every step forward is perilous, every breath burns, yet instinct drives you onward. People stumble blindly, mothers clutching children, fathers dragging the elderly, horses collapsing, carts overturned, dogs trapped under rubble. The streets twist and narrow unpredictably, funneling the living into dead ends where destruction waits. The roar of Vesuvius dominates everything, a relentless pulse that shakes the earth, rattles buildings, and drowns out every other sound. Survival is fleeting, temporary, and rare. Lightning flashes inside the smoke column, casting hellish light on the chaos below. Every flash reveals new horror, families buried under roofs, children flung aside by surges of heat, merchants crushed by falling debris. The city is alive only in terror, a living nightmare of desperation, fire, and ruin. Ash and pumice swirl like storms, consuming everything in their path. You press forward, lungs burning, muscles trembling, eyes stinging from the choking ash. The heat presses against every inch of your body. Roofs collapse overhead, tiles and stones rain down, streets twist unpredictably. People around you fall, stumble, vanish beneath ash, pumice, and debris. Acts of bravery occur but are instantly erased by the mountain's unstoppable force. Pompeii is no longer a city, it is a tomb, alive only in the struggles of those who remain. Every heartbeat, every step, every inhale is a reminder of survival's fragility. The streets, once filled with life and laughter, are now rivers of ash and death. You stumble onward, driven by instinct, clinging to life in a city that is disappearing under fire, rock, and smoke. The city is silent, but the silence is heavy, suffocating. The roar of Vesuvius has faded, replaced by a deathly calm. Ash blankets everything in sight. Pompeii, once alive with voices, footsteps, and laughter, is now a grave. Buildings lie in ruin, streets are rivers of gray, and the few remaining living are shadows among the destruction. Bodies of humans and animals lie scattered beneath collapsed roofs, toppled walls, and broken tiles. Horses lie tangled in carts, dogs stiff and lifeless, pigeons buried beneath ash. Smoke still rises in thin columns, the sulfurous smell hanging in the air, a reminder of the fire that consumed everything. Pompeii has become a tomb, a city frozen in its final moments, buried under the weight of Vesuvius's fury. You move cautiously, lungs burning, eyes stinging from the thick ash. Each step reveals more death, more devastation. Streets twist unpredictably, funneling survivors into dead ends, where hope has long vanished. The silence is oppressive, the weight of the city's destruction pressing down on every soul. Survival is a fragile memory, a fleeting miracle among the ruins. The Forum, once the heart of civic life, is unrecognizable. Columns shattered, fountains clogged, statues broken into jagged fragments. The mountain stands above, indifferent, its fury spent but eternal. Lightning still flickers in the smoke above, brief reminders of the cataclysm that erased an entire city in hours. Pompeii, proud and vibrant moments ago, is now a monument to the mountain's power and human fragility. You pause, taking in the scene. Every heartbeat is a reminder of what was lost: homes, families, pets, friends, lives extinguished in moments. The ash, the pumice, the fire, they are witnesses to a city swallowed whole. And yet, among the ruins, the few who remain move forward, step by step, clinging to life in a place where survival seems impossible. Pompeii's story is over, but its memory will endure, etched into the ash, the rock, and history itself.